And so I come to the topic of abortion the exact same way, is that it's a part of my experience. I am the byproduct of a rape. My mother
Wow.
was 11 years old when I was conceived, and my father was 21. And, I have a daughter who's 13 years old, and I cannot imagine someone breaking her little body like that. And yet,
Mhm.
so you will never hear me glorifying that. I recognize it. My mother, she still struggles, but now I get the wonderful privilege of taking care of my mom. And I can't help but to think that if someone then considered me the exception to the rule, there would be no net to catch my mother. She would just be
Right.
continuously floating because the harm that was inflicted upon her, it was me murdering me would not have changed that,
Right.
right? Murdering me would not have resolved the wrong that was inflicted upon my mom. But I'm so very grateful. I remember watching my grandmother sign her name, and she did it with an X. I'll never forget that. Like, I think I was at a Mastriano rally, and you were there, Dr. Turley, and that image just popped into my head of
Mhm.
my grandmother. I could see her doing it with so much care. Just very grateful that there were adults in the room, by world standard, may not have impressed anyone from an intellectual perspective, but they knew enough to know that what was growing in my mother's little tummy was a baby, was a person. And I grew up loved. I think I was one of the most loved child ever. They loved me. They protected me. I would call my grandmothers, even when I was, up in age, and I could just hear the love in their voice. Oh, it's
Mm.
Kathy. Little Kathy
Right.
Jean, and they loved me. And I knew no difference until I began, of course, to grow up and began to do the math for myself and began to ask questions. But that's my beginning. And so I know that my life is valuable. And I think about the little lives, that are over 60 million little babies murdered for a variety of reasons. But in our culture, even within the more conservative circles, we say we have exceptions to the rule. And my life happens to be one of those
Mm.
exceptions in the minds
Right.
of those who are perhaps, staunchly pro life, and yet they make exceptions. And my life is valuable. From me have come two amazing people that when their daddy and I release them into the world, these are the kind of citizens you're going to want in our
Right.
culture. And all of that would have been erased if it wasn't for my grandparents
Mm.
coming alongside my mother and valuing me as a person. And so I will not evolve on this topic.
Right.